welcome back to the Always Closing podcast with me, Stefan from Westlake Escrow. Today, my guest is Nick Gumpert from REMAX Top Producers here in Diamond Bar, which we're actually in their brand new, beautiful office. So first and foremost, thanks, Nick, for doing the interview.
Definitely.
Thanks for letting us film here.
Yep.
And I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely, you're welcome. Glad to be here.
So to get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, how you got started in real estate?
Sure. So officially been in the space for less than a year and got into it because I wanted to make that change for myself and my family before life told me I had to. Grew up playing soccer, then pretty easily segued into the coaching and directing world, and was in that space for 16 years. And about, gosh, a little before this time last year, my wife said she was pregnant, and I felt like, you know what, I need to rethink things before, again, life tells me I have to. So knowing the schedule of a soccer schedule of a coach and a director, it's fixed. You're out there from 5 to 9 p.m., right? And kids are at school. Like, that's never gonna change. So I wanted to find a space that I could segue into, and real estate was it, predominantly because I had some experiences in that space prior. So I had bought a condo in 2009, flipped it at that time, and then bought a townhome in 2014 with my family, with my parents, split that 50-50, and then used that equity in 2020. When everybody froze in April 2020 with COVID, that was my wife and I's move to get into the home we got. So that was a little bit of my backstory as to why real estate. So again, had some experiences at various levels. And then I knew Dina Willis, who's my team leader here at REMAX Top Producers, and known her now for 7 years. Takes me back into my soccer world because I coached her daughter. So that was the tie.
That makes sense. That's how you met Dina.
Yep.
That's interesting because I thought maybe you just met her when you started working here.
Sure.
I didn't know that you knew her previously.
Yep.
Oh, very cool.
Yep.
So what, from your previous world that you were in the soccer world, what led you into that? I mean, you've always been around soccer, you grew up playing soccer,
right,
and that kind of led you into working in that space?
Yep, yeah. Like I said, it was pretty seamless. So I went to Brazil in 2007, tried the professional route, didn't get signed, came back home, finished my degree, and when I graduated with my business degree, concentration in entrepreneurship, felt like it's one of many hats, right, when you're going down that path. And I can't say I went to study anything specific, obviously entrepreneurship, hence going down that route. But I grew up around the family business. My parents have owned a UPS store for over 20 years now. So it was nice to see those different hats getting worn simultaneously between the marketing, the day-to-day pieces, you're still working weekends, and you got to fit in vacation. So that's where I like the soccer piece, because I had the opportunity to wear different hats. I was a coach for 7, 8, 9-year-olds, but also then for high schoolers, then wore the college hat to help kids get into college. And
you said you were even coaching right here in Fullerton, right? Cal State Fullerton?
Yep. So not Cal State Fullerton, but in Fullerton for a club.
Okay.
So that's where, when my life changed in 2015, that's where it took me initially, was Fullerton. So made that change, and then shortly thereafter found my way in Pasadena. And that's where I was up until this most recent change into real estate.
Right, okay. And what skills did you take maybe from soccer that you've implemented into the real estate world?
Yep. I'd say the biggest one is balancing that team dynamic and pulling out the individual, right? Because we prided ourselves on giving that individual feedback for players. Finding a house is no different. It's like, how are you balancing the seller with the buyer, with this prospect that's just getting started versus that prospect who might be an investor? How do you wear that different hat for each one of those individuals? So I feel like that's very relatable. Yeah,
especially in a soccer club, right? There's so many players, coaches, a lot of people that you're working with.
Yep, and different experience levels, right? Someone who's, again, already been there, done that 5, 6 times, you don't need to handle them, of course, the same way as a first-time buyer who's naive and scared and coming from a different perspective, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. So sticking on soccer for one more question, what are your predictions for the World Cup this year? And how far do you see the U.S. getting?
Okay. My prediction is going to be Argentina, just because I think it's in the stars for Messi to get it, and to take it. So I'm going to go that direction. And U.S., I'm going to say get out of their group. I mean, I'd be disappointed if they didn't, with England in there and then Wales and Iran. Like, they need to. That should be an expectation, not not a congratulations.
Right.
But I think that's where it ends. Round of 16.
Where do you
for the
see
US.
U.S. soccer going on an international stage? Do you see it like, are we getting more competitive? Are we kind of just being mid-tier like we've been the last 20,
Right.
30 years?
I don't think it's that far off from where we've been because we haven't moved ourselves into a semifinalist, and for that to be the expectation because we missed the last World Cup.
Right.
So with that being said, we've definitely improved, but not everything else stays the same. So as much as we might have improved, Brazil's still on the up and up. Yeah, Brazil's Brazil. Argentina's Argentina. So
Yeah.
it's like they have their new pipeline coming through versus the likes that we have some players playing in Europe, which is nice, but again, people have been there, done that, you know.
Right.
So I see round of 16 for the U.S.
So like you mentioned, you're a fairly new agent.
Yeah.
You're kind of new to this. And this is actually a little bit different because we've normally interviewed agents that have been in the industry a long time, that had a lot of success, you know, that can really give a lot of good tips and things
Sure.
like that. But I also wanted to interview you because I feel like you've done a lot more than I've seen from other new agents.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, we just got your first listing.
Right.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So what challenges did you see when you first started off? You know, maybe for someone that's thinking about getting into real estate, what are some challenges that they may need to prepare for?
Yep.
Or how do they overcome some of those challenges?
Yep. Two things that come to mind. One, knowing what niche or niches to go into. Because I think you can, again, get lost in the minutia of so many options spread so thin. I need to work on new listings. I need to work on expired listings. I need to work on for sale by owners. Like there's so many rabbit holes,
Right.
Especially new agents can go down. And then you do a whole lot of things, but you don't do any of them well. And then you wonder why am I not getting anything? I think that's one thing I feel like I learned pretty quick is find that niche. And it's one or two and just focus and hit those hard and be consistent with it.
Right.
I think that's the other piece of it is so many people are looking for the answer. What's the one big thing? What's the one or two big things I can do? And I think really the way to look at it is what are the consistent little day-to-day tedious things I need to do? Because there isn't that one big thing to say, hey, if you get this is coming your way down the pipeline.
Right.
You know, and I think it's a lot of the things that people don't see. Again, whatever those systems are for somebody, is it the cold calls? For me, it's not, but I know a lot of people hit that every single day.
Yeah.
And for them, that's their system, right? And for other people, it's the postcard world, it's the door knocking, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. The wrong answer is trying to do all of it and thinking you can do all of it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what I tell my team is like being consistent on whatever it is that you are doing or whatever is working for you. As long as you're consistently doing it, you're going to get results out of it.
Yeah.
And be patient too, right? Because these things take time.
Yeah.
It's not like you just start in right away, you're going to see results.
yep.
Speaking on what you just said, what would you say is your niche that you've kind of focused on?
First-time buyers. I got certified as a crypto agent because I feel like that's a new space to be in. Obviously, that's taken a nosedive.
I've seen that in your signature.
Yeah.
I should have asked you or had that prepared to ask you, but what does that even mean?
Yeah, it just means you can speak the language, right? Just like any degree, it's like you're more educated in that space to deal with it, but it doesn't guarantee you anything, as you know. But essentially, if someone asks me, hey, I have crypto, I want to leverage that to pay for my down payment and finance the rest, can you help me with that? Instead of me saying, I have no idea what you're talking about right now, it's yes.
Right.
I've got a team around me that can then facilitate that to make sure I can take care of them.
That makes sense. And then you seem like you're very involved in your immediate community, right?
Yep.
Like you've done a lot of events. You did, I think, a community event where you sponsored food
Yep.
and document shredding for your neighbors.
Yep.
And even with the video, some of the stuff we've done is like, you know, community events, the night market stuff. Mm-hmm. How has that helped you, and what's the strategy behind that?
I think a challenge that, again, real estate agents have, but also just the general public, they put us all in one bucket and say, well, you all do the same thing, what does it matter? So I guess I'm striving to be that hyper-local real estate expert for Monrovia. And it's like, well, how do you do that? It's doing the Friday night market and showing here's the ins and outs and here's me being a part of it. Me having those conversations with business owners. Me doing things for, like you alluded to, just my block. and having a block party and creating no barriers to be a part of those things. It's not, hey, pay $10 and you can be a part of it. It's
Right.
There's really no excuse not to do it.
Right.
You know, and that's been a big driver for me, just because I come from a smaller city and a smaller town where, not that that was a norm, but I saw the value in it. So coming to a bigger city that spreads its wings like LA does, it's like, how can you leave your mark in your space?
So it's almost like you're bringing that small town feel to a big city.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was very cool, and that was some of the things that stood out about you. You know, why I want to interview you is because it seems like you go above and beyond for your clients, for your neighbors. Even the open house is like not just an open house. You know, you got food, you got music. You know, like you're making an event. So that's very cool, and I think it's something that's will make you stand out in the long run.
That's a goal. That's a goal for sure. Thank you.
And then also, you're very big on social media, right? I mean, I see you. It seems like you almost have a video out almost every day. And touching back again on the night market, where you did a whole tour of the Monrovia Friday night market, right? Which happened, you said, every week?
Yep.
So that's pretty smart, right? I mean, because not just you can put it on your social media, but you can put it on YouTube, and people that maybe not even looking for a realtor, maybe just want to know about the Friday night market. But out of that, now they know who you are. So how has that like contributed to your success so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important to repurpose content, and that's something just me listening to other people, me reading about other people. Gary Vee comes to mind, and he talks about repurposing content. Stop just living in one platform. How can you redistribute something like this?
Right.
And it's not just one piece of content. It's sharing a little snippet within Instagram, another snippet in YouTube, another snippet in Facebook.
Right.
Because I think that is important to show your face in different spaces. But there again, I personally concentrate in Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. But that's my preference and my choices, right?
Still a lot though.
It is, yeah. A lot to keep up on. But like you said, then it's consistency and it's intermixing those.
Right. Have you seen a little more success for a little more engagement in one of those platforms as opposed to the other ones?
Mostly in YouTube and Instagram. Okay. Yeah, today,
I would say probably with us, that's probably, we do Facebook as well, but I would say definitely like right now we're getting a lot of engagement on YouTube and Instagram as well.
Okay.
I mean, these podcasts are definitely helping as well. So, you know, it's a matter of always trying something new. And just like we keep saying, just staying consistent with it, you know. So we're filming this one with you today. Tomorrow we have another one. And then we're starting to schedule for September already too.
Nice.
Yeah, so yeah, it's good. And then one thing I wanted to ask you about is, how's your experience been working with Dina? Because I mean, I work with her as well, and I know that she's one of the top agents here at this office. Right. So I feel like that's got to be a great mentor to have if you're going to get into this business. Is to work with someone like Dina.
100%. Because someone to lean on, right? Anytime you're segueing into a new space, I think that's an ideal situation. But sometimes, you just don't have that resource immediately put in your corner. And for me, she was in my corner. And then she was an influencer for me to say, you know what, if you're ready to make that jump, I'm ready to build out, my team. So I had that peace of mind knowing that I can make that shift with someone like her, with her experience and her being where she's been. Because again, she's been here for I think 7 years, but she's had her own experiences, right? So it's nice to again learn from someone who's had various experiences, so it's not just one hat. I'm just like, I don't know about this or that. She can guide and say, don't waste your time with that. Here's why that perception gets created with these types of agents, whether it be discount brokers or different branches, and it's been nice to hear those stories, right? It's been massive.
And what are some of the main things that you've learned from her as far as, maybe how you approach clients, how you go about your listings? I mean, because I saw in your first listing, right, it was very reminiscent of Dina's listings. Like everything had to be perfect, she doesn't let one crack go unfilled, like so. And I saw that with, when I saw your listing. So is that some of the things that you've learned from her?
For sure, detail oriented when it comes to that. Not just saying good enough is good enough. Right? Because I think both of us have the belief that our next opportunity is embedded in this opportunity. You know, and I think some people feel like in this space it's guaranteed, especially the last 2 years. It's like, oh, they'll come my way regardless. And I personally would argue that, and I think again we're both ones that share that belief of the way our quality of work right now is going to ultimately be that verbal communication for people to talk about you, right? Which is what everybody wants, but again, it's how do you facilitate that?
Right. Would you recommend to somebody that's new starting off to get a mentor like that? Is that something that everyone should look to do, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it has to be at the top. It has to be at the top of the list because, again, to help guide you to know not just what to do, but what not to do. Because again, when you're new in certain spaces, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And sometimes you get lost in saying, God, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have made those same choices.
Right.
So absolutely, a mentor should be at the top of that list when making a change.
Okay, so let's switch to more of the current market state, where we're at. I'm sure you've seen it. I feel like there's a lot of fear mongering going on, right? Especially online.
Yeah.
What do you think are the facts about that? And what do you think is just trying to get views, trying to get clicks, and trying to scare people just to get more views? How much of that is real?
I love navigating that space and having individual conversations because that's where you can really make an impact, right? Yes, I try to push out content as best I can, but again, you just get lost in a lot of noise. So I enjoy staying updated and keep leaning back on where do we base our opinions? Are they based on facts or are they based on somebody else's opinion? That really doesn't have too much merit. So as you alluded to, headlines will always tend to terrify more than they clarify.
Right.
And that's just for every branch of media, right? Because like you said, it gets clicks, it gets people talking about it, and now there's not much context, but it sounds scary and you're just like, oh my God, we're doomed. Right? And I like to come on the back end to say, let's give that some context. Let's not focus on these 2 months. Let's look at the last 3 years. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
But for the last 2 months, you're right, it does look bad because you have such a zoomed in viewpoint of the situation. Right? So that's what I enjoy about this space.
I mean, just for example, I think I brought it up to you last time we talked about foreclosures, right? Like there's this big headline going around. There's a 700% increase in foreclosures. And you made a good point. It's like, but compared to what?
100%.
If you're comparing it to zero, 7 foreclosures is 700 increase,
Exactly.
So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that you got to really kind of look at context. When you see these headlines, and kind of look at the big picture.
Because on that topic, I just actually released a piece of content recently. So we're at 165,000 foreclosures. Last year in total, we were at 65,000. So we've already more than doubled that. We're on our way to tripling that. Sounds bad.
Right.
In 2010, we had 1.6 million.
Right.
So nobody's talking about us being essentially a tenth of what we were or in and around, right? Or they're just talking this year to last year. And again, last year is a record low. So,
and a lot of people compare like 2008 to now.
Right.
And me personally, I was already in this space at that time. This is nothing near what that was, And of course, we don't know where we're going, and hopefully, we don't want it to go there. But those are completely different circumstances, And I don't think the industry's a lot more stable than it was back then. Yeah.
Which hence why there's so few foreclosures.
Right.
Lending standards changed.
Exactly.
They actually make you prove your income, right? And again, that's only a positive. So.
Yeah. I was literally just explaining to my team earlier. I was like, back then, I used to do a lot of notary signings back then. Okay. And I would see like these $1 million homes going to, Bob the janitor that makes $40,000 a year. I'm like, how are you buying this house?
Wow.
But that was standard. I was like doing like 4 or 5 signings a day like that.
Wow.
And it just and then eventually it was gonna hit the fan. So and that's what happened. Tell me a little bit about working here at REMAX Top Producers. I've worked with quite a few people here, and it seems like a lot of really solid agents gravitate to this office. So what is it about REMAX Top Producers, and how have they helped you grow since you've been an agent? Yeah,
I think one of the things they do a really good job of is they're loud and they're proud, right? And they don't hide and say, guys, we're over here if you want to see us. It's like, here's what we do. And their big tagline is success is contagious. And do you want to be a part of that, right? Do you want to be as successful as possible? And by the way, we have all the pieces in place already. We're not putting our feelers out there to see what works. It's like, here it is. And do you want to be a part of it or not? And that's what I appreciate about them is they don't apologize for being good, right? It's not a bragging thing. It's a matter of here's what we've done. And again, we want to share that because we want to bring we don't want to bring people up to the average. We want to bring that average up.
Right.
And I think that's a massive difference. Some people just want to get to good enough, and they're just like, no, let's make good enough better. Let's make our better even our best. And what is you had your best year last year? Well, that was last year. Let's make this year even better than that.
Right.
How's that going to feel? Right. And I think that's such an important piece, because once you have something to look forward to, whether it's a vacation, whether it's that growth in your dollar amount, whatever that drive is, you have something to shoot for. Right. Versus looking in the rearview mirror and be like, God, that was the good old days. And I think they do a really good job of reinforcing, keep moving forward, keep moving forward.
Well, whatever they're doing must be working, because they're huge, right? I mean,
Yep.
you guys have something like 200 or 300 agents.
300, yeah, over
300 agents, a couple different offices.
Yep.
So, yeah, they must be doing something right.
Yeah, and to be fair, Jeanette and Christian both are on the forefront of it. They're not sitting in it back and peeking around doors every so often. And you see, like Christian was just in here an hour ago.
Right.
And you see their faces everywhere. And they throw community events. Seeking a Mile, they had something. Thanksgiving, they had something. They had their poker tournament. They just had their event Success is Contagious a couple weeks ago. Like, again, they do things on a regular.
Right.
Versus just dabble here and there. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What tips do you have for just new agents starting off? Again, I know you mentioned a couple things earlier, but any other tips that you can maybe suggest for someone new, maybe someone struggling? It's a question that I ask on every podcast. Mm-hmm. What has worked for you, and what are some tips that maybe you would say these are some immediate actions you can take that will make a difference?
Yeah. Well, besides getting a mentor, talk to people. If you don't have that mentor, talk to a couple different branches, just to see, maybe you don't know what you're looking for, but you at least have variety to choose from, to say, I like that one, they connected with me. It's no different than me telling people, talk with a couple agents. Because I'm not the agent for everybody, but I can be the best one for anybody. Right? Because if you just don't jive with someone's personality, you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
This
real
guy
estate
or girl
is a people
pisses me off.
business.
Yeah.
You got to like who you're working with.
Yep.
And sometimes all the other stuff could just be noise. Like, I can do this, I can do that. But really, if you just enjoy doing business with someone, you're gonna choose to work with them.
Yep. Because going back to interviewing a couple branches, some people like to be left alone. Right, and some people don't like the extra stuff, which I would say this probably isn't the office for them.
Right.
Not that they don't leave you alone, but they like to do a lot of things, and some people just don't care to, which is fine. It's just a preference. I think the other thing, embrace the social media, because that's where we're going.
Yeah.
Even though that's not where we've been, that's 100% where we're going. And a couple things that clicked with me is, it's not about you, it's about who you're doing it for, right? And when you're doing video stuff, it's not a matter of, gosh, I don't like the camera. It's like, I need to get myself out there to share that with people. Because again, they just read headlines all day long, and they're just like, dude, we're doomed. Like, things are up 700%, and oh my God, the sky's gonna fall. And it's like, how can I share that content for them? It's not for myself to say, hey, look at that video I did.
Right.
It's say, guys, go share this. Because that's where growth comes.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is, I think, is every single person out of the 10 episodes we've done now, every person I've interviewed so far is really heavy on social media.
Yeah.
So, this is an always closing podcast. There's got to be a reason that the people that are successful at this job are embracing social media, embracing making videos and putting content out there as much as possible. It must be working, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think it's definitely, a very strong tip that I think we're going to keep pushing on all these interviews.
Absolutely.
Because it must be working, right?
Yep.
And then lastly, is there anything else you just want to touch on or talk about before we wrap this up? Maybe any other thing you want to plug in about yourself, where they can follow you?
Well, yeah, from a following standpoint, you can find me on Instagram at RealGump, RealGump, like Forrest Gump, 365. So that's the Instagram handle. You can find me, same thing, on YouTube. It's Nick Gumpert. Again, think of Forrest Gump, add an ERT, at RealGump365. And then Facebook, easy enough to search me up through that, as well as LinkedIn. So those are the places to find me. God, you put me on the spot when it came to anything else to add.
I wish I had a more specific question, but normally I like to just open it up if there's anything, anything you got coming up, any events you're doing, anything like that.
Okay. What month are we in? We're in August right now. You know what I have? So one thing I just came off the back end of is a seller workshop, an online workshop. So one thing I've started is doing a first-time buyer workshop online, free. And I do it the first Tuesday of the month. So in June, I did a first-time buyer workshop. In July, I did a home buyer workshop. In August, I just got done with the seller workshop. Then I take September off, then I recycle that. So just another 0 barriers to entry. Whoever is interested in that, maybe it's a sister, maybe it's a cousin, maybe it's a friend, an old schoolmate. They're just like, oh, they're looking to buy. And so I do that now consistently throughout the year.
Nice.
Like I said, 1 month is first-time buyer, then it's home buyer, then it's seller, then a break, and then revisit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it, everyone. Nick Gumpert with REMAX Top Producers. Thanks again. Appreciate you doing this, Nick.
Definitely.
And thank you, everyone who's watching these episodes. Again, if you can like the video, subscribe to our channel, it'll help us grow and so we can continue interviewing more people. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.